Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Clocking In, where we talk about everything that happens or everything that is important, everything that stands out, all of the vital stuff from HBO Max's The Pit. And if you guys have been following along, we have been covering this season two episode by episode, and we are here to talk about episode three. And of course, when I say we, I mean myself, I mean Chase Oliver. Sir, how are you doing this fine evening? Well, for me, it's evening. For you, it's still afternoon
Yeah,
in
about the
California.
turn evening. Doing pretty well, John. Enjoying this nice Friday off, a rare Friday off for me. So it's nice when you can sleep in on a Friday.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fun things you can do when you're able to sleep in like that. I remember for a while there, I had a kind of like built-in alarm clock. I just woke myself up at like 7 o'clock in the
Oh
morning.
yeah,
It's tough to break out of that. So I can appreciate the ability to sleep in. But one thing we can't do, we can't be sleeping in on any of these episodes. We got to be talking about it. We got to be clocking in. We got to be here for all of it, and we are here for all of it for this season two, episode three. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. This episode kind of starts us towards one of the big storylines of of the season, right? Like that's how it
hmm
ends. But in order to get there, we got to start at the beginning. So we 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 have a little bit of a start there with the combative college student. We still don't know that much about this individual. They're kind of just losing their mind, and the first things that they got to do is try to get this person stable. And I mean, I've never personally been privy to somebody having that level of a psychotic breakdown, or at least appearing as though they're having that level of a psychotic breakdown. They're still not sure whether this individual's on drugs. They're doing a whole drug tox screen and all this kind of stuff. And they have identified this student as Jackson Davis. He's he's reciting all these numbers and things like that. And Robbie gets like hands on deck as quickly as possible because like this guy's agitated for sure. And so Javati, Mel, they get involved. First responders are holding them down. They're trying to do the vitals. They're trying to figure out how to like get the blood so they can do a blood tox screen and things like that. And meanwhile, we have we have the campus security guard show up, and he's like you can tell whatever we because we don't know at this point in time what happened, right? But you can tell that this person, whatever the situation was, did absolutely nothing to
yeah.
de-escalate it.
He
If
just he just he
anything,
just
he
he just tased the
contributed.
kid. Yeah, he
He
tased
tased the
him.
kid. You could tell he did a lot to help agitate the situation or make it worse. And he's complaining of a cut that he has on his head. He claims it was a chair that Davis threw at him. He's saying that Davis is a meth user. So like, all right, cool. Well, we'll take care of you. Like we'll get you over to a room and we can check on you. And he's like, no, I'm gonna wait right here until the cops show up. And it's we'll sort of jump a little bit ahead, but like by the time he finishes getting treatment and telling the cops his full statement when they show up, it turns out, which is like hilarious because he's like, I got a lot more respect now for what you guys do. And then like when they turn around, he's like, oh, there's a lady, officers. He's like, for what you, it's just so funny. Like it comes across like not like as a caricature, but like a little bit stretching the boundaries of sort of believability, but at the same time, I could actually absolutely see this happen. So by the time he finishes saying his full statement and all that kind of thing, and sort of saying that this guy was on meth and things like that, Dana, who has been getting like more and more upset about this whole situation, she gets a report from. Uh, Actually, no, I think it's the other way. I forget who hands it to who. Either she hands it to Al Hashimi or Al Hashimi hands it to her, and it's the results of the tox screen, and that shows that this individual had zero drugs
Yeah,
in the system. So, and whatever was going on, clearly it's some kind of mental situation. And on top of that, because they can confirm there's no drugs involved, they don't know whether or not the taser situation made it worse. So there's as it comes to the treatment of the individual, there's a fun little moment where he Robbie wants to administer a specific drug, and Awashimi's like, you can't really do that until you know XYZ. And Robbie's like, just turns to the EMTs like, what do you guys think? They're like, yeah, no, it's here's the information you're looking for. Robbie's like, cool, hit him. So, what were your thoughts on this kind of like opening scene and the security guard being basically like a kind of a racist dick?
Yeah, this was very an intense opening scene, obviously because this kid is like obviously freaking out, so we don't know what's going on. And the security guard had to tase him because obviously he was just being too much of a crazy lunatic. That's the one thing about the Pit that I like. It leaves you open ended because you can kind of be like, well, we didn't see the situation unfold. We are just told as the patient comes in, so
Yeah.
you can understand like, hey, this guy probably did the right thing in tasing this guy. Like, yeah, he's a dick for doing that, but at the same time, if he felt his life was in danger, and as someone who has worked security before, you're told to, if you feel like you're in danger, to tase the person, and whatever
Mhm.
happens afterwards, it happens afterwards. It is what it is. You could be viewed as a dick, or you can view it as like, oh, he was just doing his job. And especially when you see this guy come in, you think, oh yeah, he definitely is on something, or something did happen to him and stuff. And then afterwards, like, I love the comedy bit where he's like, oh yeah, you guys, like, now I know what it's like feeling being on the front lines of everything. I have to pull out this, and he feels like he's one of the officers in this situation. And then afterwards, when it turns out that he wasn't on drugs at all, and he kind of used his power of authority the wrong way, he gets in trouble for it. So it was a good scene in the sense of like showing that, like, like, not everyone that comes in freaking out is on drugs or doing something. But especially when we learn more about this kid in future episodes, we learn uh there's a lot of things going on with him, and it was more of a mental health breakdown than it was a he was taking drugs breakdown. And it's just something that unfortunately does happen in life, where people do have these psychotic breaks and they lose all sense of reality.
Yeah, I mean, uh, we we will find out that the guy's a law student, and so like that kind of I was like, ah, wow, that's interesting, because there's plenty of people that I knew when I was in law school that easily suffered from things akin to what this. I mean, what he actually gets diagnosed with, but I'm saying the pressure of getting good grades or maintaining scholarships or maintaining whatever level of social acceptance that we needed to have in different social circles, because it's a tight knit community, and it's sort of, especially when you're going through it, and it's like you go to these networking events and so on, like there's just a high level of pressure that's on you. So like I can understand where he was, how this was affecting him. Now, did I know anybody who ended up with the diagnosis that he has? Or no, but it's still, you can to a certain extent understand it and appreciate it, as somebody who went through something, what he went through, not to the same level. But another thing that I sort of have some level of experience with is Yana Kovalenko's story. Now she gets brought in. She's she's wheeled in, and they're trying to examine these burns, but she refuses and insists on waiting for a doctor. And she gets to interact with one of my favorite characters now, Nurse Emma, who is just trying to help, just trying to figure out what's going on. And this woman just like does not want to have anything to do with her. She's just like, I'll just wait for the doctor. So lo and behold, who is it who comes in? It's the tribal chief, and it's Dr. Robbie. And Robbie is talking to her for a bit. She realizes, oh shit, Dr. Rabinovich, you're Jewish. And he acknowledges that he's Jewish, and he answers Emma's question about what is a samovar, which is it's like a large metal water heating thing, and you use it for different reasons, and in the Jewish community. And so she dropped it, and the hot water, like the scalding hot water, touched her on her left leg. That's what's caused the burn. And we find out that like really the reason behind this is because of kids shooting off fireworks. And there's this funny moment where they're discussing like the usefulness of honey on the burns. But the important thing from the takeaway here is that she has PTSD from the 2018 Tree of Life synagogue shooting, which is a real life event. And a lot of people were killed and a lot of people were injured in that shooting. And because of that, she has a tough time around fireworks, which is very understandable. Now, I have a little bit of experience in that regard, in that, I was around in the army, I was around shooting and things like that. So I can understand from that perspective how, if you had no idea what was going on and you witnessed such a vicious attack,
Hmm.
why something like fireworks going off can affect you. Like, even to this day, if I don't know uh where, like, obviously on days like 4th of July and things like that, I'm anticipating it. But like, if I start hearing things, I can to a certain extent identify the difference between fireworks and a round being fired. And so, like, I'll have a moment where I'm like, oh wait, no, that's just fireworks. Like, and so, like, I'm not saying I'm like some uh like John Wick master
Hmm.
at detecting these things, but I have enough experience and I've fired enough things that I have the ability to kind of tell. So, like, I can appreciate the fact that she has that level of PTSD. But more importantly, I know people that I served with, people that I just knew because of family friends and things like that, who do have PTSD from uh, guns and round and fires and things like that. So I can appreciate it was a very heavy kind of moment, and I think that the show treated it with a level of dignity and respect. And she is willing to let Robbie help her, and I think also the fact that he was Jewish definitely
Yeah.
helped it along the way. But what I really liked was later in the episode, when it's Perla who is helping her with the burns and everything like that, she notices or realizes that Pearl is Muslim. Pearl is not hiding it. Obviously, she's wearing a head covering. And it causes her to again become emotional about the situation because, as she put it, it was the Muslims who stepped up to help the Jewish community after the shooting, helped arrange and pay for funerals, and helped gather money and things like that. And it really means a lot to her. And so, like, you can see the look of appreciation on Perla's face,
Hmm.
which, like, you have to imagine. I mean, I experienced this a little bit as a kid, but like since 9/11, people that look like me, whether they're
Hmm.
Muslim or not, have been treated a certain way. Now, people mistook my brown skin for being Arab or being also Muslim, so I experienced some of that, like completely misdirected, because kids are idiots. But at the same time, you can imagine that even to this day, for someone like Perla, it's not always the best experience. So to have
Hmm.
somebody, particularly, and it's interesting because when this show is coming out, obviously it's post October 7th. This is a Jewish individual and a Muslim individual talking about common ground, in essence. And then, of course, we have that heavy moment. We pull it back a little bit, and we go a little bit lighthearted, where she is ripping into Robbie when it comes to his sabbatical plans for his motorcycle trip
Hmm.
to Alberta, calling it a midlife crisis. And it's really funny as hell because later he says it to Dana that she's calling it a midlife crisis, and he's saying it as a joke. And Dana's just like, "I'll keep my comments to myself." So I don't want you to keep your comments to yourself. How did you feel about Yana Kovalenko as a patient, and like the whole, just all of that, the Tree of Life shootings and all of that?
Yeah, I thought it was a very powerful stuff that they decided to do in this situation because there are people that don't like 4th of July because of the fireworks. And
Sure.
like her with like PTSD, there's many people who just hate the noise of the fireworks, but it's so hard because people are lighting so many different fireworks. You just don't know. And especially 4th of July, there's always mass gatherings of human beings trying to just enjoy a night. You don't know. You hear a pop pop. That could actually be not a firework. That could actually be a gun. So for her, I understand. Like, yeah, this is some PTSD that's going on in this poor woman, and she's suffering for these burns, and she doesn't want to deal with these nurses. She wants to deal with an actual doctor. She's been through some stuff. So obviously, like, we don't know too much of the backstory, just a little bit, but there has to be a reason why she wants a doctor. And thankfully, Dr. Robbie came in. Big, powerful character moment for Dr. Robbie. And then also, but the interaction between her and Perla, that was also strong. Well, because John, I'm not Muslim at all. But I'm sure a lot of people, when they look at me and they see me on screen, I'm sure a lot of you guys do not know my background or my race. A lot of people assume that I'm Mexican. I am not Mexican. A lot of people assume that I am Russian or Slavic or somewhere around that. So, especially because I tan very easily. My background is I'm Indonesian, Polynesian, and Dutch. So when I tan brown, like I
Mhm.
tan like a oos. So I had it, and my hair grows curly. I grow the beard. I have so many people think I'm Russian. So many people think I'm this. So I also was someone that get mistaken. I had people would say a bunch of racist comments to me that I did not stand for, and then also say like, "Hey, I'm not this, but that's fucked up what you said." Like I pull out the "I'm white" card when I because I don't want to explain my whole history to ignorant assholes.
All of a
Yeah,
sudden, you're Dutch.
yeah. No, I've been Dutch. I've been Dutch. Like that's my thing. But a lot of people just think I'm a different race. Like I'm sure. Like John, what did you think I was the first time? Like before I explain it, what did you think my background was besides like my white skin?
I
What
mean,
did you think it
you
was?
I just kind of thought you were generic white. Like
Oh no.
I thought you were like more like maybe like a little bit of probably like a mix of like German, French, British, like something like that. Because I'm thinking about like the last name Oliver, right? Like like I'm thinking of all those things,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I honestly I would never have guessed the Indonesian Polynesian until you
Yeah.
told me a while, like many
I,
years
t-
ago.
I,
Like
hey,
would never have.
I take AAPI seriously. I'm two of those mixes right there and stuff. I take that shit seriously. AAPI month, that's my month, brother. And
See,
so
that's honestly, not to tangent or sidebar too much. That actually annoys me because like I'm technically of that group, but I'm not. Like I don't consider myself Pacific Islander
why not?
uh, because I'm part of. To me, India is different than
You're Asian.
Thailand, Vietnam. No, no, I'm Asian. No, no, no. But like the Pacific, like because back in the day when I would have to like check boxes off, it would be like Asian Pacific Islander, and I'm like, yeah, but like why isn't there a designation for me? Like
Yeah, right.
within Asian, like from that perspective, because like I'm looking at it going, this was an island off of Africa that came up and rammed into Asia and made the Himalayas. That's how we
Yeah.
get, So like a part of me was just like, I don't fit exactly. But so so like AAPI month, like it's interesting for me for sure. It's just sometimes I'm like, it'd be cool to have its own little thing.
Claim it. Just claim it.
Just
Just claim
claim.
it. Yeah. A lot of people like I'll be like they don't believe me, and I'm like, bro, why do you think I can get fat and you guys just don't notice the difference? And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like that's the Polynesian. It's the oos treatment. Like you get fat. Like no, dude. Like it takes a while for people to notice when I lose weight. Like they'll be like, oh, Chase, you look good. Like wow, you lost a lot of weight. I'm like, yep. You guys didn't notice when I was fat though, so it doesn't matter.
Well, one thing's for certain. I did not think that you were as, we'll call it white, as the next group that we're going to talk about,
Mhm.
which is the Hanson family. Now, we had a previous in a previous episode, somebody had a burned hand. It's resolved, and he's heading out of the hospital or heading out of the pit, and we find that the trip isn't over, so to speak. But now he's there. This individual, this patient, is on behalf of their behalf on someone else. And as he and his sister spot the father of the group sitting in reception, there's all these family members around, and now we can really see that the Hansons really were all in on themed family vacation merch, and they're they're all wearing like matching stuff, and they're trying to figure out like what's going on with why the father's there, and he says that he just got dizzy after forgetting his blood pressure medication and he fell down. And so Langdon, who is there with Donnie, they check the blood pressure, but instead of being really high, it's really low. And so he's asking, what's like they're trying to figure out like what's going on with the meds, which meds like do you have high blood pressure or low blood pressure? And he said he's a high blood pressure person. So like why would it be this low? Like this doesn't make any sense until we hear one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. Apparently, what this idiotic family does when they go on vacations together is they all just pool all of their medications together and people just take whatever they want Which, let me be clear here. If somebody was on like Valium or lithium or Percocets or Oxy, like something like that, or just generally mind altering drugs, okay, I can kind of see the appeal. But what they're talking about is they're like, because then they do a video call with somebody at the house, and Mel is looking at it and she's calling
Mhm.
things out. And as soon as she starts calling things out, I hear, like, I know enough about medication. I hear two things that have statin in the back. I'm like, wait a minute, they're just pulling like cholesterol medication and high and blood pressure medication. Like, I understand for like shit that's gonna let you trip, you know what I mean? But like cholesterol medication? Like, why would you want the random ass side effect of taking the cholesterol medication or one of these blood pressure medications? But sure enough, these people, were pooling these drugs, and instead of, and on top of that, the medication that he took, propanol, he takes 4 to 5 pills instead of the standard dose of two, which has caused his blood pressure to crash. But luckily, the Mel says, the half life of propanolol, it is relatively short. So as they'll keep him there, they'll monitor him, and he'll be free to go within a few hours. I think this was just a hilarious kind of a comedy thing to shove in there, because they knew like this was going to be a relatively heavy episode with Kovalenko and the husband and wife that we're going to get to, and so on and so forth. What were your thoughts about this one?
Yeah, most redneck thing I've ever heard in my life, bro. Like these idiots are just because like Landon was seeing someone else from the family, and then later on the guy was like, "Hey, you think you can check out my dad real quick and stuff?" And then because like I guess his dad's like a famous racer or something. I don't know. We
Yeah,
didn't get too much of a full backstory. We just know that this guy is somewhat more famous, and then his blood pressure's low, and they have like this big family cookout, and then we realize is that they just all take their own, which you should never do. You should never give someone something that is prescribed to you at all. Like it's just so stupid. And
when they said that, Langdon's face was like, "You do what?"
and
It was
like they're not vitamins. It's not like I'm like, oh John, you need like a pick me up, here's a daily vitamin and stuff. Like these are medications that are designed and given to you for your body to help your body, feel better and stuff. And these guys are just grabbing whatever, like so redneck. It's like it is very, and you know what the sad thing is, this is something that is true, that these families do these kind of stupid things when it comes to certain medications, like and stuff. But they figured out the situation. But yeah, it was a good funny bit. Like we needed something lighthearted.
yeah,
The Pitt does a good job at like sometimes like when there's a bunch of serious stuff going on, it's like, all right, let's make the audience laugh. Let's give them something to laugh about. And this was something to laugh about. Just seeing this complete redneck family just being so stupid with their medication. But thankfully, it's something that is easily fixable.
right. Meanwhile, we see another little funny thing again involving Donnie and Langdon, but here it's, while it is funny, it is also played for growth purposes, and that is Duante with his father Sherman. Duante has shoved. He was playing with beads with his sister, and he shoved two of them up his nose, one on each side, one red and one blue. So he was shouting out both the Bloods and the Crips, but he is there to have these beads removed, and they're like, okay, well, we got to figure out how we're going to do this, and the dad's like, he's not going to sit still. So they go, all right. Langdon comes up with this idea. Let's give him a video game. They give him like one of those Oculus things,
Mhm.
and they numb him up, and they're able to shove like a needle up there that has an inflatable balloon. So they get it past the bead, they inflate the balloon, and they use it to pull the bead out. And uh, while they're talking about this, or while they're doing this, Langdon talks about this really great poem that he read as about how to, just like how to be a good father, but just like to remind yourself of what it means to be a father and the importance of what you're doing. And it's a great moment because you have Langdon, who is a father, the Duante's father, Sherman, who is there with his son, and Donnie, who we know is a new dad himself. So
Mhm.
like he is kind of going through it, and it needs that kind of just gentle reminder of what it means and what you're doing, the importance of it, and to say, hey, sometimes these kids, these little rugrats, these idiots are going to do dumb things. Sometimes they grow up and share medication, but you need to remember that you always just put your best foot forward and remember what it is that you're bringing to their life. So I thought that was a great moment. What'd you think of the beads, the
Yeah,
beads patient?
it's typical. Kids do the dumbest things, man. Like that's just like what it like. This was like a good scene because it reminded you for someone like that doesn't have kids. That's like, yeah, this is why I don't want kids. Taking them to the hospital because of beads. But then they do a nice little light-hearted moment where it's like, oh man, see, like that's why you want a kid, so that way you can mature and be a better person at the end of the day, and teach them. I thought it was cute that the Oculus thing, that thing is real too, because I'm going to PT for my back,
Hmm.
and one of the games they make me play for PT, so like they make it where it's like it's not as boring and stuff. So like I have to ride like a bike, but as I'm riding the bike, they put like an Oculus on my head, and I'm playing like almost like it's kind of like a Peloton in a sense, but it's like weird. Like I'm like trying to capture like different like little eggs and stuff and
Oh,
whatnot.
interesting.
Yeah, and so it's like there's like dragons and Easter, and like you can choose it. And but the whole point of the game is that it reads like with the bike. So like if I'm going uphill, the pedals are harder to push and
Hmm.
stuff. So the whole point of the game is so that way they can like see where my back is at as I'm riding this bike. It's really cool. It's actually very interesting how it's like connected and stuff. Because like I was all like, "Oh, can't you guys get this on the screen?" And they're like, "No, we got to do it this way so that way like you just have to follow the eggs into the direction." So I'm wearing my Oculus, riding the bike and stuff, and yeah, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat technology. So it's cool to show them this. Like, it's cool that they could afford this. Like, oh, what are we doing here, Pitt?
Meanwhile, we have our brain tumor patient who last week there was that head CT that caused, or some, it was a CT, I think, that caused McKay to want to get further testing done. And now she has a full head CT, and it's showing a large mass in the frontal lobe of his brain. This is the guy who was showing like wild mood swings and was almost a different person from when McKay saw him to like 5, maybe 10 minutes later. McKay
Hmm.
comes back into the room. So she talks to him about what the issues are with the mass. Obviously, you don't want any kind of tumor anywhere in your body, but
Yeah.
I mean, especially your brain. And they want it, and she's talking about how like we can go in there and like kind of cut a piece and biopsy it and figure out like whether it's benign, whether it's malignant. Obviously, we want to remove it, but if it's malignant, that changes how we want to remove it versus benign. And so he's really, he is really kind of going through it, right? Like the idea of, whoa, this is some serious stuff. And as part of the treatment, like they're calling his emergency contact, and the character is played by Amanda Scholl, who I remember or know from Suits, and she has a great turn here as his ex-wife.
Hmm.
It turns out it's his ex-wife, and she has since remarried. She's very confused. She doesn't know why. Like she's being called there. She didn't know she was still his emergency contact. But in a very touching moment of empathy, because she could easily just walk away, right? Like she could easily just be like, "Yeah, fuck this dude. I'm not gonna go in there." But like she shows the level of humanity and the empathy to go, I should at least try to be there for this person. And however long they were married, let me do it for the memory of what that was. She goes in there and she listens to McKay talk about the medical situation, and she's talking to the ex-husband, and like she kind of has like a sort of a weird realization. And then later she asks about whether or not this mass has been there for a long time. And McKay's like,
Hmm.
yeah, it probably has been. And then she asks, like, do you think this contributed to his mood swings and his personality changes during the time that we were married? And McKay doesn't like outright say it, but the insinuation or the implication is yes. And it's a crazy moment because you got to look at this from the perspective of her and be like, was there something I missed? Right? Like, just, not like, was I a good wife or whatever the case may be, but it's like, was there something I missed that I could
Mm-hmm.
have seen that could have helped this person? And maybe we would still be married because we were good. Like, we were good together. And then this came into our lives and changed everything. And I thought it was really beautiful, especially the part where she's saying to McKay, unless he asks to change it, please leave me as the medical
Yeah.
contact. I thought that was like, there's such a level of empathy and respect and love, even though they're now divorced and she has
Mm-hmm.
remarried. That's a level of love and sacrifice and commitment to another human being. And the thing is, like, I mean, obviously the Pit doesn't show us, but like, she could possibly be doing this without even talking to her current husband,
Yeah,
who
exactly.
may feel a certain way about it, but it means enough to her that she's willing to have to deal with that, because she's got to think to herself, if we had just known
Yeah,
about this
exactly.
years ago. How did you feel about this one? Because this was definitely one of the heavier moments of the show.
Yeah, this was like my favorite part of this episode, to be honest, just because it was just like she comes to this realization where it's like, there's always like one of my favorite movies is La La Land, and like I love like the ending scene where it looks like they end up like they like pretend that they got married and they lived their life together, but it turns out they went their separate ways and stuff. And I always love that scene because it's like, man, sometimes sometimes like you always don't get what you want out of the relationship, but it was better to have the relationship to not have the relationship at all. And so this was like, for her, she's like, because like I said, like I talked about from the first bit, they don't show us what happens to these characters outside of the show. They just come in as patients and we learn more about these patients' backstories as things go on. And so like for this guy, like we've just seen him be like this lunatic this whole time, just like, no, I don't want to do this. All right, yeah, I'll do this and stuff. So we're just like, oh, dude, this guy. Then when we learn, we feel bad, like, oh shoot, this guy might have brain cancer. That's horrible. I had a friend, she had brain cancer. Thankfully, she survived it and stuff, and it was like long treatments and whatnot, but she survived it and everything. But she would have these like random mood swings where like 1 minute she would be, oh, that's the Lauren I know. And then
Mhm.
other times it was like, oh, like what's going on with Lauren today and stuff. And then she finally got diagnosed and everything. So, but with this situation, it's like she's like coming to this realization, like, okay, like he wasn't the problem, I wasn't the problem, the health was the problem. And then she feels kind of really bad about this because like divorced people, it depends on the divorce, but a lot of times you married that person for a reason.
Yeah.
You went to the altar and you said, I love you, from death do us part. You made that vow for a reason. There's a different level of care that you have for this person for you to have married said person. Like yeah, sometimes marriages are just fake or out of nowhere and stuff, but for these two people, they obviously have some sort of care and love for each other. And especially when this woman comes in and she says, oh shit, like there was something going on, she's feeling a little bit of guilt. She's feeling like, wow, am I an asshole in this situation? Because I just left, like that's how she's
Right.
feeling. She's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I left this person because he was having these. I never thought, hey, let's go get you checked out. I never thought about this and stuff. And this person, obviously, he hasn't met another person because I'm still his emergency contact. So he still cares about me and I
Mhm.
still care about him. It's a different type of care. Like this is more of like this person was an important person in my life. I still want to be an important person in their life. Like there's sometimes when you have a marriage like that or a relationship, whether it is a boyfriend girlfriend relationship or heck, you've had a close bond with someone and you've had this bond with them for years, even if you never dated or done anything sexual, there is sometimes you develop these close bonds, and this woman has a close bond with her ex-husband, her now ex-husband, and she feels bad that he's going through this, and a lot of things are starting to make sense to her of like, oh shit, this is why he was like this. He wasn't like this because he wanted to. Holy shit. So she wants to make sure he's okay at the end of the day, which is very strong, very powerful and stuff. And like you said, we don't know if like the current husband knows about the situation. We'll probably never ever know what
Yeah.
went on. And that's why like I said I love the Pit for this reason. It's open-ended. It's all like you can make your own fanfics, fan theories, decide like how the plot goes and stuff. Because we haven't seen this guy since this moment. Like, we haven't followed up with him. We don't know anything else that's going on with him. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, it is cool because like they drop these characters in, or they drop these storylines in to accomplish a goal, and then it's like it really is open ended. It's like you can take it however you want to take it.
Mhm.
For McKay, though, this isn't the only thing that happens during this hour. She also has a patient who has basically an issue sitting down because of an injury, a fall. I think it was a fall that he has, and so he's got some. He's trying to get like X-rays done and things like that, but because of the backlog, there's a timing issue in getting the results back, and so he says to her, like I'm a greeter at Walmart. I'm just used to talking to people and walking around. And apparently, he's a very big flirt, and he has a very busy social calendar. Meanwhile, also flirting with McKay, even though this guy's like definitely old enough to be her dad. There's also the soccer player who is there, and he's also flirting with McKay. I think it was just funny to have multiple guys just like trying to flirt with this lady after she was
Mhm.
talking to Mohan about like she's having an issue getting laid. But there are, you know, what, we'll cover the second big thing before getting to like the primary case or the primary set of patients for the episode. The background, the thumbnail, Kylie. So, the past episode, we've had Kylie, this child who was brought to the ER by her father's girlfriend. There's bleeding that's happening, there's bruising that's happening, and she needs help. Meanwhile, they have tried to call the father. There was a little bit of delay in him getting there. But this child is being treated by Santos. So Santos tends to sort of overreact when there's children involved.
Mhm.
She she remembers last season, and she wants to be sure that there is, like that there isn't abuse and things like that happening here. And to her credit, she does do a better job this time around than she did the previous time around. But the father shows up, and because of things that the girlfriend has said to him or said about him, there is a concern that there could be abuse involved. And they bring the social services guy in. The father does not help his case. Definitely, we can see that there's an anger issue
Mhm.
for sure. One thing we can say, though, is that we never see the anger ever directed at the child. The anger's only ever at adults, aimed at
Yeah.
adults. So, like, that is kind of potentially a clue that there isn't abuse happening. But anyway, we have this huge blow up, and he's getting more and more agitated, and it looks like he's like about to get physical when Dana shows up. This is what I was thinking earlier about Dana and Al Hashimi. It's Dana showing up here to give the results of testing to Santos, and it turns out
Mhm.
that the blood issue is not because of blood in the urine is not because of abuse. It's because of a platelet issue. And it's a very sort of like rare or rarer disease that it's harder to pick up on. And so Santos has like a humbling moment where Santos has to acknowledge that she was wrong, and she kind of jumped the gun when it came to thinking what was going on with this father and daughter. Now, because of the situation, and because the father clearly has anger issues, it turns into a bit of an issue between him and the girlfriend, because he absolutely is blaming the girlfriend for
Mhm.
like allowing this to happen, so to speak, by chasing the little girl up the stairs, which, like, yeah, you can kind of play around with her, but like and the but then the girlfriend tries to turn it around on him and say, but you roughhouse with her. But he's like, yeah, but it's kind of like the idea there is, or at least the insinuation he's making is, I know the limits, or like, I trust myself, I don't trust you. And she's saying, well, I don't know you either, bro. Like, we've only been together for 6 months. Why would I necessarily trust that you're not doing this? And he's like,
Mhm.
what like, why would you believe I would do this?
Yeah,
like how could you
exactly.
and so there's that moment where like she breaks up with him, and This is the part of this where I didn't like it, because like there's kind of a look on Santos's face where she's like, "Go girl, like you do." And it's like, not like, this woman did accuse this man or help you accuse this man of abuse. Like, yes, he has
Hmm.
anger issues, but that doesn't mean that we just all of a sudden get to blame him for all this shit. Like, that's his daughter. You are not the mom. Like, allow, like, maybe yes, you have the conversation with him about the running up the stairs thing. Don't just like fucking blow up the guy because of this. Like, he doesn't know what's going on with his daughter. He arrives. The first thing that happens when he arrives is that he finds out social services is getting involved, and they're potentially accusing him of abusing his child.
Yep.
I completely understand why he is getting mad. Do I think like he deserved to go as like aggressive as he did? Maybe not, but I'm saying I understand the headspace that he was in. It just seemed like a little bit like, oh, we're gonna throw this bone to Santos to try to like sort of not redeem it, but like be like, here's your feel good moment if you're a Santos fan about her being wrong that there was abuse happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
How did you feel about this whole situation?
It was very satisfying for a sense that like it's like you have to have humbled Santos because Santos this the theme it seems like this season is that we're trying to beat Santos's pride down a little bit because Santos, she's a very prideful, confident in her skills woman, and
Hmm.
we had to beat her down a little bit because she was very much hyper focused on this patient and wanting to make sure that no abuse was coming to the girl, not using her doctor brain, thinking, oh, maybe it's like a weird disease that we didn't think about or anything like that. Because bruising, especially like if you suffer any bruising, it could be from a blood disease. Like you have to check these things out, especially if these bruising are not healing. And obviously, this little girl, she seems like a tough little girl because you know, don't like, especially because like she's like oh, she plays soccer, she does all this other stuff. They roughhouse with each other and stuff. Like she seems tough about it, and she doesn't seem like someone that like like I think the only time she would break if someone was beating her down, and I don't think anyone was abusing her because the way the girl was confident and like, oh, this happened, that happened, da
Hmm.
da da, and stuff. Like she didn't. There was no fear in her voice talking about this. Like she didn't feel like she was like threatened or anything. She was, and the one big thing that you can tell is like the eye contact. Like she kept constant eye contact. She wasn't looking down, looking like she was afraid someone was going to hit her. She was answering these questions previous episodes confidently. So I felt good in saying, oh, this girl's not getting abused. But of course, the father hot headed, like definitely a hot headed individual. So that was the one thing. It was just like, okay, maybe she is, and she's just very strong, and she knows how to take a beating. Like, kind of fucked up to write this, but okay. But then it turns out it's like, oh, okay, no, she is able. She just has this blood disease. She needs to start this medication. It's very rare for kids to have this and stuff. She just bruises very easily. But yeah, she's one tough girl because those bruises, like, they don't look like they're comfortable
No.
to sit with and stuff. But yeah, it leads to the fodder and the thing. But it's good for Santos to kind of be proven wrong, and also it's a lesson that hopefully it's something where it's like, don't assume, just do your job as a doctor, and if it
Yeah.
gets to that point, then you can step up. Don't try to be a hero. You don't need to be Batman in this situation. You have to play your part as a doctor. And she was trying, and it doesn't help. Like I can understand why the father coming in pissed off. A social worker's coming off right off the rip. It's not like you sit down and talk about the situation, what happens, or get him in a calming situation. It's a social worker's right in his face. I would be pissed too in that situation. I'd be like, the fuck is this? Like, you guys are thinking that I did this? Like, oh
Yeah.
hell no. Like I would be a little bit defensive too in that situation, especially because who knows what this guy was doing? He was doing stuff for work and stuff, and his phone's blowing up, and he's just like, "What the hell's going on?" And then he comes and he's trying to figure out, and then the first thing I see is a social worker. I'm gonna be all like, I ain't gonna be calm, Chase. I'm gonna be pissed at the situation. Like, y'all jump into conclusions like that. Like a social worker's gonna be talking to me? Oh hell no! Like, mm-mm.
Yeah, it's just like and the thing is like they're like, all right, why don't we have this conversation in like this room over here where we can discuss it privately? And he's like, why do we need to do that? And they're like, oh no, just any he's like, yeah, no, we're just gonna have the conversation right here, right now. But yeah, it is a it's it's definitely a situation where you're looking at it like, wow, this was a great way to sort of remind people that Santos can be wrong. But I think then, like I said, I didn't like the way that they sort of at the end of it were like, oh yeah, go girl with the breakup
Hmm.
thing. But anyway, we turn now to our main event, so to speak. If this was a wrestling review or a wrestling show or what we're talking about, we turn to our main event of the episode where we have a collision that happens. We have a husband and wife in a car. They collide with a motorcycle driver, and they first are treating the motorcycle driver, and it turns out that there's really nothing that they can do. And they realize that the motorcycle driver is not wearing his helmet, or he was not wearing his helmet. And
Hmm.
they ask, the kind of shows up like the question there about Robbie and his helmet. And Robbie goes, yeah, I wear my helmet. And the thing is, we, the audience, know he's lying.
Yeah, he did not wear his helmet going into the pit.
The coworkers do not know that he is lying. So that's an interesting little tidbit that we need to file away for the rest of the season. But Robbie's just like outright lying to his coworkers, and more
Mm-mm.
importantly than that, lying about safety.
Yeah.
His anyway, so it turns out that there's really nothing they can do for that individual. They're going to have to call it, but there are there is something they can do for the other two passengers of the car.
Yes.
Now, we have the wife who is fine. Turns out, she's doing all right, but there's something off with the husband. And the husband appears to be paralyzed after everything that happened. They there's the which has got to be like a crazy thing. And
Yeah.
there's this idea, and I think it was really interesting because like throughout the course of this episode, we see multiple couples, or specifically couples, where like there's this idea of like stress in the relationship, right? Like the idea of the ex-wife and the brain tumor patient, the idea of the girlfriend and the father of Kylie, and now the husband and the wife here. And even there, we have like a little bit of a joke during this section between Al Hashimi and Robbie, where she's saying, you can feel free to see other people. Oh, because he asked her, like, what do we do now? And she goes, you can feel free to see other people. Like, I'm not asking for commitment, just cooperation. Like, there's a little bit of like a little, subtle joke about these two sort of as like the mom and dad, the husband and wife, so to speak, of the ER, at least for today. So we have this individual who was driving the car. He's in the car crash, and it appears he's going to be paralyzed. And it's really wild. Like the wife is like kind of like losing it, and it turns out in an interesting twist that it's a genetic potassium imbalance, and it was triggered by the physical aspect of the accident as well as the emotional stress of the accident. So they go, all right, we can deal with this. Like this is as things go, this is really like this is not bad at all. We can just get this guy's potassium levels to where it needs to be, and he will recover. He will be okay. However, I think it's a really great like bait and switch moment where suddenly the wife collapses. Now she
Yeah.
previously had refused treatment saying that she was fine. She now collapses, and it turns out that there's bruising around her spleen, and the adrenaline basically of experiencing the car crash, the husband being all that kind of stuff, it was allowing her to not even feel the pain and allowing her to mask the pain. As soon as she realizes that her body, or sorry, that her husband is stable, her body kind of just like relaxes, right? And that adrenaline starts to dump out of her, and that heightened sense of aware, all of that goes away. And when it does, now all of a sudden she's much more critical. She is like, it's like they think like she needs to be operated on immediately. And so she's moved to the operating room. Garcia's kind of a dick about it, which is not surprising. Garcia's just kind of a dick in general. And I thought it was interesting because like I was trying to figure out like the relevancy at the time of Mel and her deposition, because
Yeah.
one of the things Al Hashimi talked about was that she had never been sued for malpractice. And I remember when we saw this episode, I turned to Colleen and I was like, I wonder if this could be the point of like talk of Al Hashimi kind of bragging, not like necessarily bragging, but like just sort of like highlighting the fact that she'd never been sued for malpractice.
Yeah,
Because
right.
like there's an argument here that there could be malpractice here. Because even if somebody says that they're fine and you know they were in a car crash, you sort of have like that medical obligation to at least check them out. Even if they're refusing it, you can be like, let's, or like, you push for it kind of thing.
Hmm.
So this woman now goes to the operating room. Like I said, Garcia is a bit of a dick, and sort of the coda for this section is that the husband, he is now kind of coming to with the help of the medication to affect his potassium levels, and he asks Dana to help him record a video message for the wife so that she can watch it when she comes out of surgery. And it's like, oh, we don't know if this lady's gonna make it out of surgery. We have no idea. But
Yeah.
hey, like you gotta, if you're, again, it's like the relationships of husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, ex-wife and ex-husband throughout the course of this episode. How did you feel about the motorcycle victim, like the connection to Robbie as a motorcycle driver or enthusiast, as we shall call him, and our car crash victims and everything that happened with the husband and wife?
Yeah, the motorcycle victim. It's almost like they're trying to plant seeds about like something's happening to Robbie at least, or
Hmm.
something's gonna happen with Robbie's motorcycle because this ain't gonna be the last time we see a motorcycle victim come in. And so this guy's straight up dead. I like Joy where she's like, "What about the moment of respect?" And then Robbie's like, "Ah, we'll do that later." Like,
he's
it's
like
like, it's,
he's like he'll still be dead. We can help
yeah,
somebody else.
yeah, we can help somebody else. I'm like, damn, bro, like this guy don't even get a moment of respect and stuff. And then it's a very interesting scene because like, first of all, like Robbie gets pissed when she does collapse. We're like, well, someone should have checked on her. And it's like, yeah, someone should have probably checked on her. Like, this wasn't something that like she should have just been like not checked on. Like she says she was fine. Like, no, she was in an accident. You should probably check on her too. And stuff. I get it. She wanted to be there for her husband, be by his side, yada yada yada. I totally understand that. I was just like, no, someone should probably check on her because we don't know if this woman is quote unquote good right now. And so then afterwards, the guy, you know, I don't know how this happened. This felt something I've never heard of this. But then again, I've been in situations myself where I'm like, oh, this is happening to my body. Great. So I guess I can understand it. It was way too technological for my dumb monkey brain. Like I couldn't understand like what they were talking about, the potassium levels and how this crash caused it. But once again, weird things have happened to me where I was like, that could happen. And I'm like, oh, I guess it can. Who knew? Like, I did not know your stomach can cause you to get a head fever. Did not know this until
Hmm.
last year. So yeah. So I guess can happen to anyone. But yeah, very, very tense moment. And I really liked that the husband, because like they talked about it, they were fighting the whole time. He didn't want to do this trip and stuff. So he was regrettingly doing it. And so the wife has some remorse because like, what if that was like the last conversation I had was an
Hmm.
argument with my husband? That sucks. And then the husband, he hears the two couple that fight, the dad that we assumed that was assumed of beating the daughter and then the girlfriend and stuff. They got into a fight and he wanted to let her know like, hey, I love you and stuff, and like, what, when we fight it's nothing serious, blah blah blah. Very touching moment. But once again, it's been, and we've been watching, and we're behind on episodes, but it's been a few episodes. We still don't know the situation of this wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and especially now, considering what we do know that will happen to the pit, which is a great way to lead into the ending. But right before we get to the ending, we do have our moment. Louis, Louis is getting drained,
Mhm.
and he's finally finished filling the bottles. There's like I think it was like 6 bottles, like solid bottles, looking bottles of liquid that's been drained out of his stomach or out of his lower section. I think it was his stomach. But now he's having the pain is hitting him from the tooth, which is what he originally came to the pit for. And just want to make sure we touch on that, the idea of what's going on there with Louis. We can't forget about our pal Louis. But that
Mhm.
leads us to the end of the episode where Dana receives she picks up the red phone. She gets a worrying phone call, and it's a neighboring hospital, Westbridge. They have declared a code black, and meaning they're closing to all incoming patients due to an internal crisis. And I love the way that Dana answered the phone. She's just like, yeah, this is charge nurse, med tech. What's going on, med command? And she's just like, wait, are you fucking kidding me? She's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's like, a fucking 4th of July? Like, what are you doing? And so they turned to Robbie, and she's telling Robbie, she's like, hey, they're diverting all ambulances to us for the foreseeable future. And they ask, like, the staff's like, what's going on with this code black? Like, how long is it going to last? What's going on? And Robbie, who had just been celebrating getting, some patients out, like getting some people out so they could get more patients in from the waiting room, is just like, son of a bitch. Like, this is what we got to do. We have no idea. Like, how long, how come, how many? And those are the words said by our security guard pal, who starts setting up the betting board, because there's going to be there's opportunity, there's money to be made. We know that Chase, you definitely can appreciate that with your love of Prize Picks and your your love of
gambling. I loved how he was so excited.
He was hyped.
He had all these important like security guys. He's like, fuck yeah, he's like, we're back in business. But this was the point where it's like, because a lot of people were like wondering, all right, so what's going to be the major crisis this season? Obviously, we talked about it in the season 1 recap. They went with the shooting, but at the land of TV, we just don't know if a show will ever get picked up again. They went balls to the wall the first season, so that way, just in case, if it's the only season of the Pit you get, at least it's like, damn, they went hard that season. So far, it's been a nice, smooth season. Getting reintroduced to the cast, being reintroduced to new people, trying to see where the battle lines draw. Not battle lines, I could say, but where the tension is with Langdon coming back and everything. 4th of July, I was expecting, okay, maybe like a big firework explosion or something. Then we get this, and it's like, okay, this is going to be our big crisis this season. What is going to happen with this scene right here? And we won't know until a little bit later on what happens, but man, it was like very interesting as like people were placing bets and stuff. And I've seen some people on the Pit, they place some bets in the comments on the YouTube videos and on Reddit and stuff. Like, and I'll say this, John, I got it right. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I knew what it was. I was thinking of what the situation was. I would have won the pot and stuff. I would have won the pot in the Pit if I would have just put $20. They should have made this a bet of what happened on the Pit. I would have won some money, pat myself on the back saying, yeah, I knew what this was. But yeah, definitely it was like, okay, now we get the crisis. Now the Pit's going to be overflown because now one hospital is shut down. They're going to be getting an influx of patients, and it's going to be just chaos from here on out.
Yeah, so we've got 3 out of 15 episodes, so 1/5 of the way through, 20% of the way through. And now we're starting to see where our ramp up's coming from. Like, we can kind of see where that tension is going to keep building. We're trying to figure out, man, as this is happening, what's going to happen with some of these interpersonal relationships, as you pointed out, like the Langdon and Santos issues, the Al Hashimi and Robbie issues. Those are the 2 big ones for this season so far. Oh, and then we also Robbie and Langdon. So yeah, there's a lot. So what were your final thoughts on this episode, and how did you feel about it as our continuation of the series?
Yeah, I thought it was a solid 3rd episode. Nothing too like crazy. Very good touching moments in this episode. Very heartfelt episode from the Pit. In terms of like plot progression, and not too much plot progression here. It was just like a basic, like, this was definitely like the tug on your heartstrings episode. Like, like a good, like this is one of those episodes, like if you're starting to date a girl and you wanted to get into the show, show her this episode, and then that will help you out a little bit. It's a nice little like watching episode with, like, no, this is a great episode.
That's fair.
You start dating a girl, and or maybe you are dating a sensitive man. As a woman watching this program, you might be dating a very sensitive man. This is a great tug on the heartstrings episode that shows the heart of the Pit. A lot of good subjects that were touched on here, but I wouldn't go back to this episode. It's not one of those episodes where I'm legit going back. I'm like, oh, I gotta rewatch episode 3. It's more of like, if I rewatch this season, this is one of those, I call it the fast forward episodes, where I fast forward to the bits that I remember.
Right.
I'm just I'm just fast forwarding. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this part, and then you click play and stuff. There's sometimes those episodes where it's like, hey, I don't want to rewatch this portion. I remember how boring it was, and so you just fast forward to the portions you want to watch. That's how this episode felt to me. More of a fast forward episode.
That's fair. I really liked it because like I liked the showcasing of three different forms of a romantic relationship and what it can mean both in the short term and in the long term and at various stages, right? Like the idea of a group of people were dating for 6 months. Some of them had been married for some time. Some of them had been married for a longer period of time. And just seeing how people navigate through those relationships, I really like this episode. But there's a lot more to talk about.
You know what's
And we'll-
messed up? They never pay respects to the motorcycle guy. We never see them go
that's
back
true.
to the
That is
dead
true. We never
motorcycle
do see
guy,
that. Yeah.
and they don't say he was so nope. Like he's just dead.
Robbie's like, we are not bringing this person back. Up again. No.
Rest in peace, dead motorcycle
Yeah,
guy.
he's like, we carry on.
From episode 3 to episode 3. Like, we barely do you. In the arms of an angel, fly away. And it's just like this dead corpse that we're seeing, like, died. Episode 3 of the Pit.
Crazy.
From 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. in Pittsburgh. That's all we know. No, he came in at like 9:20 a.m. So we like that's the time frame he probably died. So rest in peace, motorcycle guy. I will remember you as someone's brother, someone's friend, someone's son.
You're doing arms. I will remember
you. What's another song where it's like a really sad song? What was the one WWE used all the time when a wrestler died? They just went to that Finger 11 song. Now that it is over, and I saw your pretty face here without you, baby, and I miss you all the time, and I think about it every single moment of my life. And it's like, oh man, that's how this guy feels. We rest in peace, motorcycle guy. Didn't even get a beautiful scene or something to remember him by. He just died. Died, Oos. Day one ish just died, Oos. Day one ish. It's like, oh.
But Chase, let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on X at ChaseLauber68. If you guys are wrestling fans, Steve and I did our AEW Revolution preview. By the way, Steve was not prepared. I know when he watches
shocked.
Dude, the thing with Steve is this. I love Steve. He's one of my best friends. But I know when he's been watching and when he hasn't been watching and stuff. He clearly has not been watching AEW on a weekly basis. But since it's one of the bigger events, he wanted to get a preview up there. Me, casual fan Chase, has been watching AEW Dynamite every week. Collision, not a collider. I'll watch it when I can, but been watching every week. And Steve was struggling. He clearly just watched a go-home show and just wanted to give his predictions. That was the energy I was feeling. But don't worry, casual fan Chase was here. I was there giving my takes of what could happen of this huge card for AEW Revolution. So we did our AEW Revolution preview on the Around the Point Network. I might jump in for the Trio Heat watch along just for a little bit for live corresponding, depending on how I'm feeling and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Around the Point Network, this channel, Trio Heat Sports Entertainment, for true off season and clocking into the Pit, and as well with other stuff, whatever John and I can think of for projects to do on here, and then also Trio Heat for watch alongs and all that other stuff. Those are the channels you can find me on, the platforms.
And you can catch me here on True Hill Heat Sports Entertainment, breaking down everything with the Pit with my guy Chase. And now, since we're in the off season, Chase alluded to it, true off season, we'll be popping up for different things that happen in the NFL on a per event basis, so to speak. And I know Sid and I are going to figure out when we can link back up for another episode of True Headphone Heat, where we talk about all different kinds of things when it comes to music. We did a J. Cole album review, and we'll be back with more of that soon. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of Chase, this has been Clocking In for the Pit Season 2, Episode 3, 9 a.m. Remember, guys, take care of yourselves. If you're in a relationship, cherish the other person as long as you have the ability to. So until next time, take it easy, guys.
We're close to our first 15, John. We can take our first 15 soon.